Good evening. This is a meeting of the Revere City Council's Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. Tonight we have one item on the agenda, number 13-178, a motion of Councilors Arrigo and Penta relative to the establishment of a citywide resident permit parking program. I am going to open it up to councilors. If it's okay with the committee, I'm going to open it up to Councilor Penta since he was a sponsor of this motion. And then I know we have Sergeant Giannino, John Henry, and George Anzoni in the audience for ideas about this. And I will toss it to Councilor Penta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the reason I put this in is two reasons. One, financially, for the city, I believe the city can make hundreds of thousands of dollars off cars that are registered outside of our city because of the cost of insurance. And I did a short survey basically on my street and a few streets, and I could not believe the amount of cars that I register out of the city that people live here year-round. I mean, out-of-state plates. They're here for I get people telling me their neighbors, 2-3 years of Florida plates. I mean, we're losing all that excise tax. We're talking about, reading the paper, the thrifty, if we lose that. This is one way of maybe making up. Is it an easy thing to implement? I don't know. I don't have all the answers. That's why I asked the city treasurer, finance director, Sergeant Giannino here, head of traffic, and John Henry, head of the tickets, parking tickets and stuff. But my thing is not to ticket people, maybe after 1-2 o'clock in the morning. I know people say, they have people over parties. I understand that. There's a lot of stuff that has to be worked out in this. I just think if this is done right, I don't think we should charge the residents for the permit stickers to be barcoded. And there's a couple of positive reasons I wanted to do it, such as when we have events on the beach. Maybe let Revere people with a Revere sticker go for nothing. Maybe Revere people, the MBTA, if we can get a discount from them, there's a way we could prove that a car comes to Revere with a sticker. Let's give the residents of Revere a break. There's not enough parking here, and a lot of it's, absentee landlords. People move here and their cars are registered somewhere else, and they have no reason to register them here because if they move from small town or something else, the insurance is a lot less out there. So this is twofold. One, the city can make a lot of money, and two, get cars off the street that don't belong here. It took me about a year and a half with illegal Boston cabs, delivery cars, and everything else, but I'm starting to see a difference. People can finally almost park on the same block as them because all these illegal cars that have been illegal for years are finally getting the message because they're getting ticketed and everything else. And I can see a difference with that. And that's why, in talking to you, Mr. Chairman, you have the same sentiments as me that there's a way of making money. Is this an easy thing to do? Maybe not. When I don't have, like I said, I don't have the answer. Maybe when you go pay your excise tax for your car, they give you a sticker. It may take a year to implement. I don't know. I'm not looking to hurt any Revere residents. I had a woman call me up telling me she has no place to park her daughter's car. It could be a street that's exempt from it. There's ways of going around about to in other words, not hurt any residents of Revere. It's not looking to hurt any residents of Revere, but we got to pay the high insurance rates. Maybe if everybody pitched in, paid their fair share, our taxes will go down. So in reality, we would save the taxpayers money and people just living by the rules here. So that's all I'm looking for is people live by the rules that we live by. And like I said, it's implementing it that could take a long time. And it's going to take a workforce. I think the police department would have to be a big key in this because they're the ones that are going to go out at night, 2-3 in the morning. It's not ticket writers. I know some cities actually hire ticket writers to come in at midnight and implement this, and they raise quite a bit of money. But I'm just looking to get the dialogue started on this and, get the more heads, the better. And like I said, the police, I believe, have the camera truck that can ride down the street and take them automatically plates, and it'll tell them basically where to register and stuff. So they may be able to do a survey In the meanwhile, while we're talking about how to implement this. So I'll save it for other councils and some of the speakers that we asked to come up here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Penta. Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm of a firm believer that I think we need parking enforcement in the evening hours more than we do during the daytime hours, because when I traverse the streets that I represent and other streets within our community, we're loaded with cars. I mean, I don't know where the hell they're coming from, but it's loaded with cars. And I see every out-of-city taxi parked on side streets all over our city. And I just think that it's unfortunate that our residents being removed from a site that they should be able to park at, they're parking on sidewalks. There's so much congestion that I'm surprised the fire department hasn't come up and struck a major alarm right here and say, hey, look we can't get down some of these streets. There's so much parking going on. In my own area, I don't complain about it because there isn't any place to park for people to park. I mean, and I see now we get more commercial trucks on side streets. We got to draw a halt to this. We got to get those residents that own a business to park in a proper spot and free up these spots for people who live there and with the residential parking. I mean, it's getting out of control. I mean, everybody and their brother has these pickup trucks and commercial trucks, and I have a particular person that parks this unsightly mess on Lowell Street every day. If that car was parked in front of my house every day, I'd go tow it myself down the marsh. I mean, it's absolutely insane how this is being allowed to take place. I mean, and you can't wager in a confrontation with these individuals because, you know, in today's nature, you don't know what's going to happen. But that's why the good citizens of the city are waiting for the government to do the job. And that's our role. Have the proper people do the job so that we don't get in confrontations with individuals the way they're parking these vehicles all over our community. And I think the only reasonable measure that we can offer out is residential parking. I was never a believer of this before, but I think it's the only enforceable thing to do. You got to put some sanity back in this parking area. I mean, and I do think we should start looking into the feasibility of hiring meter people during the course of the night. And they've got to do a job. I mean, and I think just on the revenue driven from that, it'll be self-sufficient. We won't even have to pay for this. We won't even have to put a line item here. They'll make more money than their jobs pay. So I just think that this is a great motion. And I compliment you and Councilor Penta for this because it's a long time overdue. And I know how the traffic division is number one, I bat zero there. So that's why I'm pleading here. So maybe my colleagues who bat higher rate than I do, I'm like eighth in the batting order before traffic. But not to make a very serious situation humorous, we got to have this happen. This has got to take place in our city. And I talked to a few area residents, and they're all for it. People are ready for it because they know the abuse that's taking place out there. And they don't want to be in a combative situation with their neighbors, and I don't say I blame them. So this is a way for government to do its job, finance a couple of positions to do night patrols, just solely parking. That's it. They don't have to do any other means, just parking, and that will be self-sufficient. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Councilor Giannino.
Thank you. I think this is a really good motion, but there are several questions I have about it, and I think there are several provisions that could be made to it, such as maybe certain hours. I know some of our surrounding communities do it midnight to 6 in the morning, and I think that that's when a lot of the issues are really hitting. So if we required these permits, it would address the concerns of Councilor Penta, such as out-of-state vehicles and vehicles that just don't belong here. But if we enforced it like midnight to 6 in the morning, like some of our neighbors do, it would also allow people to continue to have birthday parties and holiday events and things that celebrations at their home, so they could still have their friends and family visit. And I know something else that surrounding communities do too is they have guest permits. So if you're a homeowner in the city, you're allowed, 2 things you can slide on your windshield. So if you do have an out-of-state guest or people staying with you, you have that. So I think that it's a good opportunity, and there's a lot of, little things that we can add to it to make it more polished as it comes about. But good motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Janino. Councilor Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with Councilor Janino and Councilor Penta as to the nature of of both the problem and the solution. I'm not a big fan of residential restricted parking, because it seems to me that it almost makes people captives in their own homes if they can't have visitors. But the nature of the fact that, and it's true, that we have people that actually live here who don't bother registering their cars here. And I think the only way to address that is to address overnight parking on our streets and tell them that, you know, you can park overnight on your streets if you're a resident, but your car has to be a resident as well. And I think that makes sense. And the other thing that makes a lot of sense is, as we get closer to the winter season, is snow removal. It's bad enough that we have to have our snow removal people go in and out around, especially on the hills of Ward 4, and do an inadequate job. But when it's done because people who have cars there that don't belong there, it makes that all the more frustrating. So I would support an overnight parking, residential parking restriction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Reardon. Councilor Correggio.
Thank you, Chairman Reardon. Okay, I just want to say that I support the motion. This is long overdue. I think we just need some tweaking of language, especially probably in the holiday section if people are visiting. But other than that, from what I've seen, people park here using the MBTA. They park here and they tie up spaces day after day. They inconvenience the neighbors. Some of them work a night shift. They park in front of someone's house and they can't have a parking space. Also, as Councilor Reardon says, the winter time. You get someone probably from another city that's visiting, and they'll leave their car for 2 or 3 days. You're stuck with the car there. They can't plow the street properly. And a lot of these streets, you like to plow from curb to curb. So I think we definitely need a mechanism in place for the city, and I do support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Correggio. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in general, I don't have a problem with this working something out, but most of the residential parking that is going on now is, I'd say, in Ward 1, Ward 2, and some of Ward 4. I know there's some places maybe in 3 and 5, but the majority of them are in 1 and 2 because of the MBTA stations. And that was the whole reason that permit parking was put together, so people going into Boston wouldn't park there all day long. So we set up the residential permit parking from 7 a.m. in most cases to 12 noon to stop those people going in the morning and staying all day. My main concern would be, believe it or not, and nothing against anybody in the other parts of the city, but people from Ward 6 up in North Revere coming down and parking in my neighborhood and tying up my residential streets in front of my house, who happens, you know, I live a couple hundred yards away from the T, that would park there all day long and then go home afterwards. Now, myself or some of my neighbors don't have places to park on their street during the day. So I would look and see if there was zones set up, you know, for each ward, so people couldn't do that. You know, and I think it's only fair in that case. But in general, I have no objection setting something up and working something out for the rest of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Novoselsky. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with the motion wholeheartedly. The purpose of excise tax, when the Great and General Court instituted it throughout the Commonwealth, was to raise revenue for the cities and towns. And I don't think it's fair that people can register vehicles from other communities and sometimes even other states, park them on our city streets, park them on our sidewalks in some cases, and just make our city crowded all the time for the people that live here and are paying taxes and have their cars registered here and get that excise tax bill in the mail every year, and they pay it. I had a call today about a livery service down on Calumet Street. I went down and looked at it. Livery vehicle parked right on the sidewalk. Now, I know there are some sections in the city where residents don't have adequate parking on their streets, and in some cases, they have to park on the sidewalk. But if they're doing that, in every case, they should be registered in the city of Revere. They should be paying that excise tax, just like every other law-abiding citizen does in this city. So I think this is an excellent motion, and I will support it 100%. Long overdue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Powers.
Can I make a point of
Councilor Penta.
information? The Councilor, I was Chelsea. There's no question that the people near the T, and I thought of that, people coming from other areas of the city, but there'd have to be a double zone. So that would still be in place with a double zone. I mean, people can park there. But there's people parking all over Beachmont going to the airport, leaving their car there for 2 weeks. I mean, I see it. So, I mean, all this stuff can be ironed out. Every council that spoke has legitimate complaints, but it all can be worked out for the benefit of the taxpayer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Penta. Councilor Hess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, for one, are for it without question. Just in my little neighborhood up in Ward 3, there is all kinds of parking up there. They're really taking care of the area, and I think we have to really get to it and determine what should be done. Now, you look at other places like Ward 2, people go down there, Ward 1, people go down there. But on the other issues in Revere, they're all parked on the outside. And you look at the parking at night, the cab stands, you know, it's amazing what's really going on in the areas up there. So I'll be for this without question.
Thank you, Councilor Hess. As Councilor Penta alluded to, I think we looked at this meeting as being the beginning of a full discussion about what we can do. This is obviously a quality of life issue. Councilor Patch, did you want to speak? Huh? This is a quality of life issue, and it's also a financial issue where we're not getting some excise tax that is rightfully due to the city, hopefully. We do have a number of experts in the audience, so I would ask that if they have any ideas or thoughts about what we've heard so far. I think the three big pieces that I've heard so far have been having people checking meters at night, a 12 to 6 permitting process or an overnight permitting process, and then the idea of having certain neighborhood zones that would alleviate the impact in, I think, wards 1 and 2. If anyone wants to speak to any of those, Mr. Henry.
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Councilor Correggio.
I just want to mention that a lot of people are using visitors passes and giving them to other cities and towns, and they park in front of these residential areas near the train stations, and they're stuck there for days sometimes. And so we need to get a handle on that. The parking clerk probably could explain a little further, but that's been another problem. These visitors passes they give to different people, that other cities, to park here, and it's a major problem.
Thank you, Councilor Correggio. Councilor Patch.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I did want to speak, but just a couple of points that weren't mentioned that I think are important. In Ward 6, this over the years really hasn't been an issue, but the last 6 years I've been getting more complaints about actually rooming houses, people turning single-family houses into rooming houses, and that brings many cars. It also would create more students for the schools. So I think that's why at this stage, even Ward 6 is involved in this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Patch. And you make a good point about population. The city's seen its population increase. Obviously, that's going to mean more cars on the street. Mr. Henry, I don't know, you were getting ready to address the council. Do you have any thoughts? Like I said, and like Council Penta said, I think we looked at this being the beginning of a conversation. I think we want to get all the stakeholders involved and make sure that we have a full ordinance, or if we're going to change any ordinances, that we take into consideration everything and put everything on the table and come up with a solution that can hopefully improve the quality of life for all of our residents.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you have a 6 o'clock meeting, so I'll be very quick. This is more a logistics and a financial problem than a resident parking problem. Revere has had resident parking during the daytime for 31 years now. We were the second only to Cambridge in instituting it. We know how to do it, but the problem is we don't always have the personnel available to constantly monitor the resident parking zones. With respect to going into an evening or an early morning program, separate and distinct from the daytime program, you're talking about having to re-sign the city. You're talking about a brand new enforcement group. You're talking about, we have 38,000 registered vehicles in the city. That means potentially 38,000 people are going to have to register for some sort of a resident parking sticker. So the signage, stickers, computerization, enforcement, I think budgetary-wise, we're talking upwards of over $300,000 to get this off the ground in a way that we can manage it and have it enforced properly. Without the enforcement, it's a meaningless program. So I think around budget time, you may want to start to think about this. The framework, the infrastructure for an ordinance is readily available. We have it in our office, how to do this. The only thing I'm very concerned about is all of a sudden disturbing 38,000 people to come and get a resident parking sticker who had never had to do this before. And it's a bit of an inconvenience unless we find a way to streamline it and have it go to them in some fashion that they don't have to come down here. But we have to see some form of identification that the vehicle is registered in Revere, licenses. There's a whole lot of things, but I think you can talk about that down the line if there is a seriousness to undertake a program, but it's going to be a very expensive program.
Thank you. And to Councilor Penta's point, I think he had mentioned potentially when folks come in and pay their excise tax, is that something that would be helpful, or is there a way, would there be a type of program that we could do to maybe lessen the...
You'd have to ask George Anzoni how many actually walk into City Hall versus mailing it in.
Yeah.
Things like that.
George, do you have any idea how many...
The majority of excise taxes are actually collected through the mail.
Through the mail.
Through the mail. I don't know the percentage offhand, but I do know that the majority is through the mail. And there are 2 or 3, well, there's actually some years 8 or 9 commitments, but the big commitment's in February, but for the majority they come in through the mail.
Mr. Chairman, just a question while he's at the microphone.
Council Penta.
Every person that gets an excise tax gets a bill, don't they?
That's correct.
Wouldn't it be easy just to slip a permit sticker in that envelope? That should be that easy.
Yeah, we could do that.
I mean, there's ways of doing things.
Well, I think maybe rather than say yes or no to that question, I'd rather sit down and have a discussion and see exactly what needs to be accomplished, and then how we can get to accomplish that goal.
I agree, but my thing is to do nothing. I don't think is the answer, and I know financially.
Oh, I'm not saying.
You can say no. I know you didn't. I'm saying that the parking clerk, and I understand that it's probably going to fall on him if this is done. But the point I'm trying to make, there are ways. Like I said, you're going to stick one in everybody's. What do you call it? But as far as $300,000, he could be right. It could be. But you also could start in one area, 2 areas where it's worse, and see how it works. And if the city's making money,
right?
I mean, why not do it?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Council Penta. Council Correggio.
Thank you. I wish the parking clerk could maybe explain about these visitors passes. that people are given to people from other cities, and it's got to be a serious nuisance to neighborhoods. Particularly if they're trying to use the MBTA, they don't want to pay the money for the parking lot, they don't want to pay anything, and they come over here and they stay here for days with these visitors passes, and they're either from Winthrop or Chelsea or someplace. So we need to crack down on that also, if maybe the parking clerk could explain something.
Councilor Correggio, I'm gonna move that we actually adjourn. We do have a 6 o'clock meeting tonight, and this, I want to remind everyone that this is the beginning. I think what we saw this as is the beginning of a full discussion and of a comprehensive solution to the parking issue. And I want to thank everybody who took time out of their day. I know Sergeant Giardino is in the audience. If you have any comments, I feel bad dragging you down here. But if you have any comments, if you'd like to add, I'd open it up to you. But if not, we can adjourn. And I will keep this in committee, and we'll continue to have this discussion probably throughout the rest of this year and hopefully into the next year. With that, I will adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you.